The testimony under oath, the members of Congress who pushed the president's false claims, even though the DOJ had told the president they were not true. The members who then requested pardons after January 6th. A White House lawyer testifying one lawmaker requested a pardon even broader than the one Nixon got. Rachel Scott on the requests for pardons, but first our chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl on the Hill, leading us off again tonight.
Tonight, top officials in the Trump Justice Department described the immense pressure campaign Donald Trump put on them to use the power of their department to help overturn the presidential election. After Attorney General Bill Barr, who had told Trump there was no election fraud, resigned in December 2020, Trump put pressure on his replacement, Jeffrey Rosen, to do what Barr had refused to do.
So between December 23rd and January 3rd, the president either called me or met with me virtually every day, with one or two exceptions like Christmas Day.
Trump relentlessly pushed Rosen and his deputy, Richard Donahue.
The president's entreaties became more urgent. He became more adamant that we weren't doing our job. We need to step up and do our job. And he had this arsenal of allegations that he wanted to rely on. I went piece by piece to say, no, that's false. That is not true.
Rosen at one point told Trump, quote, DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election.
How did the president respond to that, sir?
He responded very quickly and said, essentially, that's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm just asking you to do is just say it was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
The rise and fall of
a number of Republican members of Congress were actively promoting the president's lies. One of them, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, pointed Trump to an obscure official in the Justice Department, Jeffrey Clark, who ran the department's environmental division. Clark drafted a letter for the Justice Department to send to the state of Georgia.
This letter claims that the U.S. Department of Justice's investigations have, quote, identified significant concerns that may have impacted the outcome of the election in multiple states, including the state of Georgia.
It was patently false. Top DOJ lawyers rejected it out of hand.
It was so extreme to me, I had a hard time getting my head around it initially. I thought it was very important to give a prompt response rejecting this out of hand.
On January 3rd, Acting Attorney General Rosen found himself in the Oval Office with Clark, the president, and top Justice Department lawyers.
Jeff Clark was proposing that Jeff Rosen be replaced by Jeff Clark. And I thought the proposal was asinine.
Witnesses told the committee that Clark assured Trump that if he were in charge of the Justice Department, he would do what the president was demanding and find voter fraud.
So I said, Mr. President, you're talking about putting a man in that seat who has never tried a criminal case, who's never conducted a criminal investigation. It's impossible, it's absurd, it's not going to happen, and it's going to fail.
Then Trump asked this question.
He said, so suppose I do this. So suppose I replace him, Jeff Rosen, with him, Jeff Clark. What would you do? And I said, Mr. President, I'm going to resign immediately. I'm not working 1 minute for this guy. You're going to lose your entire department leadership. Every single AAG will walk out on you, and Jeff Clark will be left leading a graveyard.
Ultimately, the threat of mass resignations worked. The president decided not to name Jeff Clark the acting attorney general. Trump's pressure campaign on the Justice Department did not let up. After the horror of January 6th, a number of Republican members of Congress who had been pushing Trump's lies.
There's widespread evidence of fraud.
We are going to object to electors from states that didn't run clean elections.
Asked the White House for pardons.
And was Representative Gates requesting a pardon?
Believe so. The general tone was, we may get prosecuted because we were defensive of, the president's positions on these things. The pardon that he was requesting, was as broad as you could describe. From the beginning, I remember he's from the beginning of time up until today, for any and all things. He mentioned Nixon, and I said Nixon's pardon was never nearly that broad.
And so let's get right to John Carl live on the Hill again tonight. And John, as all of this was playing out today, we also learned in the last 24 hours of another major development here. The Justice Department, of course, we know, has been conducting its own very quiet investigation of what led to January 6th. And this DOJ lawyer, an environmental lawyer, I should say, that the former president wanted to make acting attorney general in the 11th hour, now federal agents at Jeffrey Clark's home overnight.
They raided his home on Wednesday. David, this is a clear sign that the Justice Department investigation has gone beyond those who physically attacked the Capitol on January 6th to officials in Trump's inner circle. And by the way, Jeffrey Clark did testify, give a deposition to this committee, but we heard today that he repeatedly refused to answer questions, citing his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. All right, John Carl on the air all afternoon with us. John, thank you, leading us off tonight. And so now we turn to those requests for pardons, many of whom were pushing the president's false claims, even though the Department of Justice, his own acting attorney general, telling the president the claims were not true, that there was no evidence of widespread fraud that would have changed the election in any of the battlegrounds after January 6th. Tonight, the members of Congress who then asked for pardons. So let's get to Rachel Scott, also live on the Hill tonight. And Rachel, we heard testimony, of course, this testimony under oath today about members who made these requests or who talked about pardons after January 6th.
David, Trump White House officials testified that at least 5 Republican members of Congress asked for presidential pardons. On that list, Republican Representative Mo Brooks of Alabama, who sent an email to the White House asking for pardons not only for himself, but for the 147 Republicans in the House who voted against certifying the 2020 election. The special assistant to the president at the time also testified that Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida was personally pushing for a blanket pardon since early December. Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona also sought a pardon, according to witnesses, as well as Louis Gohmert of Texas and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. David, tonight, reaction is starting to come in from these Republicans. Scott Perry's office denying this, calling it a ludicrous, soulless lie. Mo Brooks not denying it at all, but saying the pardons were unnecessary after all. But the words from Republican Adam Kinzinger, who says the only reason why you would think to ask for a pardon is if you think you committed a crime, David.
All right, Rachel Scott also live on the Hill tonight. Rachel, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.